corner table. Chapter 1, Café Dřevo, first week of December. I came to Prague in December because the assignment required it, and the assignment required it because my editor, a practical woman named Florence, who had been sending me to cold places for 3 years, believed that European Christmas markets photographed better in bad weather. She was right about this, as she was right about most things I found inconvenient. Rain on cobblestones, the smear of Christmas lights in wet glass, the specific way a tram looks coming through fog at dusk, solid and amber and slightly unreal, like something from a decade that didn't quite happen. My name is Annalise. I shoot travel photography for a magazine that still prints on paper, which I consider a small miracle, and I write the accompanying text, which Florence calls copy and I call whatever keeps me honest. I am 28 years old and I have been in 19 countries in 3 years. And I am either very lucky or very tired, and on any given day the answer is both. I found Café Dřevo by accident on my second day. I had been shooting the old town square in the early morning. The market stalls going up, the vendors with their breath visible, the astronomical clock doing its patient hourly performance for tourists who were cold but felt obligated, and I was wet and needed coffee badly enough that I stopped at the first cafe with an open door. Rather than consulting my list of approved locations, Café Dřevo was on a side street 1 block from the square, narrow-fronted, with large windows that took up almost the entire street-facing wall. From outside you could see straight through to the interior dark wood paneling, small round tables, a bar at the back where a young man was arranging cups with the efficiency of someone who had done it 10,000 times and was thinking about something else entirely. The sign above the door was hand-lettered in a font that was either very old or very carefully imitated. A bell above the door rang when I pushed it open, and the warmth hit me the way warmth always hits you, coming in from cold, not gradually, but all at once, like a door opening inside your chest. I ordered at the bar, took my coffee to a table near the window, and was setting up my camera to review the morning's shots when I noticed him. He was at the corner table. The corner table was the best table in the cafe, positioned at the point where the 2 large windows met, so that it had light from 2 directions, and tucked enough into the corner that it felt private despite being perfectly visible from the street. He was sitting with his back to the walls, facing the room and the windows, which is how people sit when they want to see everything without being the thing people see. He wore a coat the color of old charcoal heavy wool, the kind with a velvet collar, the kind that had been a serious coat once and had become simply the coat, the only one, through years of being the best available option. A burgundy scarf, loosely wound, the ends tucked inside the coat rather than hanging. On the table an espresso cup, already empty, and a newspaper folded into exact quarters. He was not reading the newspaper. He was looking out the window at the street, at the tourists passing with their umbrellas and their maps, at the rain on the glass and the Christmas lights reflected in it. His expression was neither happy nor sad. It was the expression of a man who has been watching things for a long time and has made a kind of peace with watching. He was perhaps 75, perhaps older. His hair was white, combed back from his forehead with care. His hands, folded on the table, were the hands of someone who had done physical work. Once thick at the knuckle, broad across the palm, but had not done it for a long time. I noticed him the way I notice things through a habit. I cannot turn off the composition of him, The light on his profile from the left window, the way his stillness made everything around him seem to move faster. The tourists outside the glass. The waiter moving between tables. The tram sound coming through the wall every few minutes, low and regular as a pulse. I did not photograph him. Not then. He was a person sitting alone in a cafe, not a subject. I finished my coffee, gathered my things, and left. But when I came back the next morning, because the coffee was good and the window light was excellent, and I am a creature of habit disguised as an adventurer, he was there again. Same table, same coat, same folded newspaper, a fresh espresso, untouched. I thought, well. Chapter 2. Background. Perhaps he comes here often. By the fifth morning I had a theory, which I tested by arriving at 7:15 earlier than I had been coming, early enough that the market vendors were still setting up and the square was mostly pigeons and cold light, and finding him already there. Same table. The coat. The scarf. The newspaper folded into quarters. He was the first customer of the day. The young man at the bar whose name, I had learned, was Elia, and who had the specific manner of a person who is good at his job and would prefer to be left in peace about it, told me, when I asked with what I hoped was casual curiosity, that the old man came every morning. Had done for years. He was there when Elia started 4 years ago. And, Elia implied with a small gesture, probably when the cafe itself started, though Elia didn't say this because it would have been unkind. Does he talk to anyone? I asked. He talks to me, Elia said. He tells me when the espresso is right and when it isn't. Last Tuesday it wasn't. He was very specific about why. Does he always sit at the corner table? Always, Elia said, with the tone of someone for whom this question had long since stopped being interesting. If someone else is sitting there when he arrives, he stands at the bar and waits. Usually they leave fairly quickly. He makes them uncomfortable? He doesn't do anything, Elia said. He just stands there. People feel it eventually. His name, Elia told me, was Tobias Novak. He was 78. He had been a clockmaker. His workshop was on a street near the Jewish quarter, and his son had taken it over when Tobias retired, though Tobias was, according to Elia, not fully reconciled to having retired, and mentioned his son's methods occasionally in tones suggesting the field was not being managed to the standard the field deserved. His wife? I asked. Elia made a small sound that was not a word and that said everything. How long has he been coming here alone? He came with her before, Elia said. I've seen the photograph he carries. I've never asked about it directly. I nodded. I paid for my coffee and went to my table, not the corner table. I had not once sat at the corner table, and I looked at Tobias Novak and I thought about the photograph he carried and the clockmaker's workshop and the son who did things differently. I also, because I am a photographer and cannot stop doing this, thought about the window. The large windows of Café Dřevo were, I had come to understand, a tourist magnet in their own right. The cafe was situated such that if you stood on the pavement outside and turned slightly right, you had a clear view down a narrow street to the edge of the old town square, and in December, with the market in full operation, that view included garlands and light and the suggestion of the astronomical clock tower above the roof line. People stopped constantly to photograph it. They photographed the cafe window itself, steamed at the edges, amber inside, the dark wood and the coffee cups and the cozy contained warmth of it because a lit cafe window in December. Rain is one of those images that is always the same and always irresistible, the visual equivalent of a word that means home. And in almost every one of those photographs, in the corner of the window at the best lit table, there was a man in a charcoal coat with a folded newspaper, looking out at the street. He was not the subject of any of them. He was the background. He was the thing that made the image feel real, rather than stage the evidence of actual life happening inside the amber warmth, the proof that the cafe contained people who were not tourists, who were simply there. On my 6th morning I borrowed a phone from a couple who had just photographed the window, asked if I could look at the shot, which they permitted with the slight wariness of people who aren't sure what they're agreeing to, and there he was. Tobias Novak, soft-focused, slightly left of center, looking out at the street. Present and incidental and, in the way of all incidental things in a good photograph, somehow the whole point. I gave the phone back. The couple looked at their photo, pleased with it. Nice, the woman said. Very, I said, and I went back inside. Chapter 3: Viral. I found the thread 3 days later, sitting in my hotel room with my laptop and the remains of a room service dinner, going through my own photographs from the week and trying to decide what Florence would want for the Christmas spread. I had searched Café Dřevo on a whim, the professional habit of checking what had already been done with a location before deciding how to approach it differently. The results were what I expected: travel blogs, TripAdvisor entries, a few food photography accounts. And then, on a platform I used primarily to monitor what was circulating in travel photography, a post with 47,000 likes and a title that read "Found something incredible in my Prague vacation photos." The post was by a woman named, her username Prague in winter, and it showed 4 photographs side by side, all taken outside Café Dřevo, all showing the window, all, in the corner of the window, containing a man in a charcoal coat at a corner table. The photographs were from different days, different weather, different times of day, different tourist crowds outside, but the man was identical in each one. Same coat, same folded newspaper, same posture, looking out. Does anyone else have him in their photos? I've been comparing with friends who visited Prague last winter and the winter before. He's in all of them. Who is this man? The comments numbered in the thousands. I scrolled for longer than I intended. People had gone through their own Prague photographs and found him a German couple from Hamburg, a family from Sao Paulo, a solo traveler from Seoul who had photographed the window from an angle I hadn't tried and caught Tobias in sharp focus for once, the white hair, the velvet collar, the newspaper in a shot she'd posted on her own account 2 winters ago with no caption. Someone had made a compilation. 43 photographs from 17 different people, spanning 5 years. Every one of them containing Tobias Novak in the corner of the Café Dřevo window. A graphic designer had overlaid them, semi-transparent, to show how precisely his position remained constant: the coat, the table, the angle of his head as he watched the street. The overlay was uncanny: 43 versions of the same man, inhabiting the same corner of the world with a consistency that was either very ordinary or very remarkable, depending on how you looked at it. The internet had decided it was remarkable. He's been there for 5 years in strangers' photos and doesn't know it. I'm not crying, you're crying. He's part of hundreds of people's memories of Prague and he has no idea. He's just living his life. I went to Prague in 2021 and he's in mine too. Top left corner. I just checked. I actually teared up a little. Someone find him and tell him. He deserves to know. That last comment had 11,000 likes. I closed the laptop. I sat on the hotel bed in the dark for a moment, listening to the trams outside, the particular sound they made on the wet tracks in the street below, that low metallic complaint, present and gone. I thought about Tobias Novak at his corner table, looking out at the street. The tourists passing the window with their cameras, the thousands of photographs in which he appeared, soft focused and incidental, making every one of them feel more real. He had been part of strangers' memories of Prague for 5 years without knowing it. He was in albums and phones and laptops in 17 countries. He was the thing in the corner of photographs that people came back to, that made them feel something they couldn't quite name. He didn't know any of this. He was just drinking his espresso. I opened the laptop again and looked at the thread for another hour. Then I went to sleep and dreamed, dimly, of trams. The next morning I went to Café Dřevo. Tobias was there. I sat down at my usual table and looked at him for a moment. He was reading the newspaper, actually reading it today. Not just holding it with the concentration of a man who has opinions about what he reads and is currently forming one. I took out my camera. Looked through the viewfinder. Then I put it back in my bag. Some decisions make themselves. Chapter 4. Still here. It took me 2 more days to speak to him. This is longer than it should have taken, probably. I am generally comfortable approaching strangers. It is, functionally, the job, but Tobias Novak at his corner table had an atmosphere of self-containment that I found myself reluctant to disturb. He was not unfriendly. He was simply complete. He did not leave spaces in his silence the way some people do, inviting entry. His silence was furnished. On the second day, Alia solved the problem for me by introducing us with the matter-of-fact efficiency of a person who has decided that 2 things should meet and sees no reason to be subtle about it. Tobias, he said, passing the corner table with a cloth, this woman has been sitting in the same spot for a week and a half and taking photographs of the window. She's a photographer. Tobias looked up from his newspaper. He looked at me directly, the way old men look at you when they have stopped worrying about whether looking directly is polite, and said, I know. I've seen her. She'd like to speak with you, I think. I assumed, Tobias said, she would eventually. He said this with no particular satisfaction, just acknowledgement. He gestured at the chair across from him with 2 fingers. I picked up my coffee and my bag and crossed the cafe and sat down. Up close he was more lined than I had understood from a distance. The skin around his eyes deeply folded, his mouth set in the configuration of a man who had spent a long time being serious about things, and whose face had conformed to the habit. But his eyes were lighter than I expected. Gray, with something alert in them. You are writing about the cafe, he said. It wasn't a question. About Prague at Christmas, I said. The cafes I keep ending up here. Most people do, he said. For a week. Then they leave. I told him I had found the thread. I showed him on my phone, turned the screen toward him and let him look. He put on a pair of glasses from his coat pocket, thin framed, and looked at the compilation image. 43 overlaid photographs, 43 versions of himself in the corner window. He looked at it for a long time. Long enough that I stopped being able to read his expression. which had moved through several things I couldn't name and arrived at something still. 43, he said. At least, I said. That's only from the people who posted publicly and were found by the person who made the compilation. There will be more. He handed the phone back. He took off his glasses and folded them and put them away. I didn't know, he said. I know. They were taking photographs of the street. Yes. The window. The market. The light is very good from out there. He looked out the window. A couple was outside now, the woman holding up her phone, framing the shot. Tobias watched them with an expression that was not quite amusement and not quite anything else I had a name for. Beatrice, he said. I waited. My wife. We came here together every morning since the cafe opened. Since before. There was another place on this street before this one. Different name. Same table. We claimed it very early. He looked at the table surface, the dark wood. She died 3 years ago. I kept coming. Because of her, I said. Because it's what we did, he said. I'm not sure there's a more complicated reason than that. We did this. So I do this. I thought about what to say. I decided on the truth. People in the comments, I said, they find it moving. That you're there. That you are in their photographs of Prague and you didn't know. They feel. I paused, trying to find the word that wasn't sentimental but wasn't dishonest either. Connected to you. People who have never been here feel connected to you through their friends' photographs. There are people in the thread who have never visited Prague who know your table, your coat, the way you fold the newspaper. Tobias was quiet for a moment. A tram went past outside, the sound coming through the wall like a low note held briefly and then released. I folded into quarters, he said, because Beatrice liked to have the table surface mostly clear. She said a cluttered table made her feel she was eating at a desk. He touched the newspaper. I kept doing it. I looked at the folded newspaper, at his hands on the table, at the window, and the couple outside who had taken their photograph and were now moving on, carrying Tobias in their phone without knowing who he was. Would you mind, I said, if I wrote about this? He considered it with the thoroughness that seemed to characterize all his decisions, not hesitation. Just the proper weight given to a question before answering it. What would you say? He asked. I don't know yet, I said. Probably something true. He looked at me for a moment with those light gray eyes. All right, he said. We sat for another hour. He told me about the clock making the precise, patient work of it. The way a clock is a machine that does only one thing but must do it without interruption, which he described as a philosophy as much as a mechanism. He told me about his son Lucien, who had taken over the workshop and was doing well and with whom he had, he said, a relationship of fond and mutual incomprehension that he believed was probably normal between fathers and sons and that he had stopped worrying about. He told me that the espresso at Café Dřevo was the best in Prague, and that this was not sentiment but fact, and that anyone who disagreed was either mistaken or had not tried enough espressos. I asked him, near the end, what he thought about at the table, looking out the window, every morning. He was quiet for a moment. A group of tourists passed outside, cameras up, the brief flash of a phone screen in the gray December light. Different things, he said. What needs doing? What I am going to eat for lunch. Sometimes nothing, which takes practice but is worth it. He paused. Sometimes I think about the people outside, where they're from, where they're going, whether they'll remember this street. He looked at the window. I suppose they will, now. Chapter 5. One more morning. I filed the piece to Florence on a Thursday, 9 days after I'd arrived. She read it in 20 minutes and called me, which she only did when something either needed significant revision or was, in her estimation, good. The call was brief. "Don't change anything," she said. "We'll run it in the January issue. Winter Europeans." "It's not really about Christmas," I said. "No," she said, "it's about something better. Send me 3 photographs." I sent 4. The window from outside, the rain making halos of the Christmas lights. The cafe interior, shot from the door, the warmth in the dark wood. The corner table with the folded newspaper and the empty espresso cup, Tobias absent, the composition saying absence without announcing it. And the last one taken with his knowledge, him looking at the camera for once, just briefly, before he looked back out at the street. The white hair, the velvet collar, the light from 2 windows. Florence used all 4. The piece ran in January. By February it had been picked up by 7 other publications in 4 languages. The thread that had found Tobias, the 43 photographs, the compilation, the thousands of comments was now referenced in art blogs and travel journalism. And, once, in a short piece in a Czech newspaper that Alija showed me in a photograph, he messaged me, the headline translated roughly as Prague's invisible landmark. Tobias, Alija told me in the same message, had read the Czech piece, had read it twice, apparently, had said the espresso comment is accurate, and had returned to his newspaper. I was in Lisbon by then, shooting a harbor piece. I looked at Alija's message in a cafe by the waterfront and felt the particular warmth of knowing that someone is alright, that the thing you were part of landed softly. People came to Café Dřevo because of the thread, and then because of the piece, and then as these things work, because of the people who came because of both. They came looking for the corner table and the man in the charcoal coat. Most of them found him, because Tobias came every morning, which had not changed. Alija told me that some of them tried to talk to him and that Tobias received these approaches with varying degrees of patience. Depending, Alija suspected, on how they led with it. The ones who said "Excuse me, are you the man from the photographs?" received a look that could strip paint. The ones who sat nearby quietly and waited tended to do better. One morning in March a woman came in with her daughter, the daughter perhaps 8 years old, the mother somewhere in her 30s, both of them in good winter coats. And the daughter had, apparently, already been shown the compilation by a grandmother in Amsterdam, who had found Tobias in one of her own Prague photographs from 4 years ago. The daughter went directly to the corner table and said to Tobias, with the economy of children who have not yet learned that directness requires softening, "My Oma has you in her photo." Tobias, Alija reported, had looked at her for a moment and then said, "What is her name?" The girl told him. He said, "And is she well?" The girl said yes. He said, "Good. Tell her the table is still here." Alija sent me this story in a message at 11 at night and I read it in a taxi in Madrid. And I felt something, that I am a better photographer than writer and cannot fully describe something that is not quite sadness and not quite joy. And that lives in the small space between them where the true things tend to be. I went back to Prague in December. The 2nd December. It was partly the assignment. Florence had decided that a follow-up piece was warranted, 1 year on, which was the kind of decision she made when she was right and knew it, and partly something else, some pull that I recognized as the thing that makes you return to a place, which is not always the place but what the place contains. Café Dřevo was the same. The hand-lettered sign. the large windows, the bell above the door. Aliha at the bar, rearranging cups with the efficiency of someone thinking about something else entirely. The smell of coffee and old wood and the cold that came in each time the door opened. Tobias was at the corner table. The coat, the scarf, the newspaper folded into quarters. An espresso, fresh. He was looking out the window at the street, which was wet and hung with lights and full of tourists who had their cameras up. I got my coffee. I sat at my usual table. He saw me come in. His eyes moved to the door when the bell rang, as they always did, and gave a small nod, the nod of a person acknowledging something expected. I set up my camera on the table and looked at the morning's light. It was good. It was the same quality it had been a year ago, the gray December light through large windows, doing what good light does, making everything specific, making the ordinary look like it was worth keeping. Outside, a young man stopped on the pavement, raised his phone, framed the window. I watched him through the glass, watched him see the interior, the warmth, the amber light, and I watched his eyes find the corner, the old man with the newspaper and the espresso, and I watched him decide that this was the photograph, this was the image he would take home. He took it, looked at it on his screen for a moment, smiled, moved on. Tobias had not looked up. He was reading the newspaper today, working through it with the attentiveness of a man who intends to have opinions. Outside, another tourist stopped. Another phone. The lights of the market were just visible at the end of the street, gauzy in the rain. I raised my camera, looked through the viewfinder at the corner table, the coat, the scarf, the newspaper, the cup, the white hair and the folded hands and the window light on his face. And I thought about the 43 photographs, and the Amsterdam grandmother, and the girl with the message for her Oma, and the 7 publications in 4 languages, and all the phones in all the countries containing this corner of a cafe in Prague. I thought about Beatrice, who had liked the table clear, who had been coming here before there was a here to come to, at a different cafe on the same street with the same table and presumably the same light, whose absence had become, somehow, presence folded into the newspaper quarters, carried in the coat pocket alongside the thin frame glasses, present in the choosing of the corner seat every morning as deliberately as a kept promise. I took the photograph. Then I put the camera down and drank my coffee, and we sat in the comfortable quiet of 2 people who have been in the same room enough times that the room has started to feel like something shared. After a while, without looking up from the newspaper, Tobias said, "The espresso today, good?" I said, "Correct," he said, which from Tobias I had come to understand was higher praise. Outside, the tram went past. The tourists moved along the pavement with their cameras. The Christmas lights hung in the rain and made their reflections in the wet stone. I thought I will come back next December. I thought, and the one after. I looked at the corner table and the man who sat at it, who was part of thousands of mornings in thousands of photographs in dozens of countries, who had no idea and also now some idea, and had decided that the espresso comment was accurate and returned to his newspaper. A person can become part of strangers' lives without realizing it. Not through effort or intention or the performance of significance. Simply by being, quietly and consistently, in the same place, by choosing the corner table every morning, by folding the newspaper into quarters because someone you loved liked the surface clear, by looking out at the street as if it is still worth watching, which it is. It always is. The tram went past again. The bell above the door rang as someone came in from the cold. Tobias turned a page.